I just have flashbacks in my life of when I closed my heart due to relationship challenges and then had further relationships after that. And I felt so numb, right? I felt so unable to connect to that person. And it's funny, I thought it was them at the time, but, reflecting back on it over time and even now in this moment, yes, they were a trigger, but it was the walls that I had put up to stop the messiness, right? To stop the feeling. And I guess another quote that comes up too is the wound is where the light enters you. Welcome, beautiful souls, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna with your host, Harrison Ma. I invite you on a mystical voyage from the intellect to the soul, delving deep into the mysteries of love's spiritual essence and its unfolding. This podcast celebrates the peeling back of heart layers, revealing profound lessons, interviews with spiritual seekers, and practices to open your heart to love's infinite wisdom. Good morning, evening, afternoon, magical beings. Welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Love Antenna. Today, here in the topic, a surprise sort of out of the blue topic of why you are not alone and using the divine mirror. Today, we're going to be talking about the power of remembering, recognizing, coming back to the truth that not only have you never been alone, but the way to recollect that and reclaim that truth is often in the presence of another. And this is often a term and an ability I often refer to as the divine mirror. So we're going to be talking about what that is, what are some of the challenges around this, and how can you start to use this today. So make sure you stick around to the end, soak up all the juicy elements. I have the beautiful Leah Drew here today to support me within this conversation. I'll introduce her in a second. But if you're joining live, either on Facebook or YouTube, welcome as well. If you have questions and comments as we go, please pop them in the comments section. And if you're listening on the podcast player, please share this with someone that you think it can support. The lovely Leah Drew, as I said, is here today to join me in this chat. Leah Drew is a mind-body healing guide, a fellow podcast host, and just a powerful, loving friend that I've had the pleasure to get to know quite deeply within not just the context of the work that we do, but also within this phenomena of using a divine mirror to go deeper into oneself. So, Leah, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show, my friend.
It's always a pleasure to be here and have live chats with you always, Harrison. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure, my friend. I think we could probably start with this to go straight into the topic. When I describe and define a divine mirror, to me, it's the ability to be in the presence of someone else and to be seen, to be heard, to be felt fully, right? Despite everything that might be going on usually in our minds. One, have you noticed the ability of this when you hold space for other people or you're being held by someone else? And two, why do you think this is so important when it comes to loneliness?
Yes. Well, first I want to add on that a little bit because I believe not only is it being seen, being heard, being witnessed, being welcomed, accepted by another, but also by yourself, right? Being seen and really seeing yourself, hearing yourself, and being able to have that reflection back onto you. And that's one of the things that I find to be most powerful about having that divine mirror is being able to look at yourself through the mirror of this other person. And then there's that aspect of also being seen, being heard, being witnessed, supported, so on and so forth by the other person. Because if that really is not there, it's harder to fully see that reflection back onto yourself. And the concept of loneliness is one that can be easy to step into, right? It can be easy to sit and hear and say, I am lonely. I am alone. And in reality, I don't think we are ever truly alone. It might feel that way when we aren't actually in the presence of those people that are seeing us, that are hearing us, that are accepting us, that are supporting us. And therefore, we aren't able to actually see through that mirror unto ourselves that we aren't alone. And so if you're finding yourself sitting here and being like, I'm alone, I don't have anyone, I encourage you to look at the people that are in your life, because I know that there's somebody that is in your life that you are speaking to on a somewhat regular basis. And I invite you to look at, how is this person making me feel? Are they making me feel seen? Do I feel understood by them? Do I feel loved by them? Do I feel like there's a safe space for me to be here and be present? That was one of the things you and I were talking about yesterday, was that aspect of presence, right? Being able to be fully welcomed, fully safe in this space, that you actually feel connected, and not just to the other person, but feel connected to yourself and get to witness yourself. And so that's one of the things that I feel and see around loneliness. How about for you? How is loneliness something that you see being influenced by this divine mirror?
So there's a couple of components that I want to pull out of what you said. But I guess the first piece here is, and this is for everyone that's listening, I think it's probably worthwhile acknowledging, why do we feel so lonely, right? And I think that's a whole other podcast to talk about all the many different reasons why loneliness is such a, the real pandemic in the world at the moment. But I think one way to describe it more simply, and this sort of adds to your question here, Leah, of how a divine mirror and reaching out for support and having someone love on you and hold space for you can be so powerful. It's often because we're getting stuck in a story, right? We're getting stuck in a thing that we're playing internally that we think is real, right? I'll use me as an example, right? I had some loneliness come up yesterday, and it was around, connecting to my mother. And I didn't reach out to her in my moment of loneliness, because I was playing a story in my mind that if I had texted her, called her in that moment, and told her the reason around what I was actually feeling, then she would have reacted in this specific way, right? And that was the story that I was playing. When I did eventually reach out, not only was that story not true, but I was overwhelmed by the support and the love and the intentional, as you said, presence that showed up by her just holding space for me. So, I shared that example, and this is the question I want to throw back at you, Leah, to highlight one of the biggest reasons that loneliness is such a big challenge for most of us is we're getting stuck in stories that are illusions in many ways. So I'm wondering if you could speak to this, Leah. Why is this such a challenge in your perspective, and how does the divine mirror that we use here start to shine through this illusion?
Yeah, well, we all have the stories, and I agree with you in all the ways. Like, our stories, and I believe, play a big part in that loneliness. And ultimately, when we're lonely, there's this feeling of I am alone. I am not in the presence of others, and therefore you really aren't in this expansive energy. You're in this contractile force, right? And you're in this contracting energy field. And with stories, there's a modality that I use called story work that is one of the most powerful modalities I use with my clients. And there's always these stories that come up that are leading to people putting walls up, whether intentionally, consciously, or unintentionally and unconsciously. We put these walls up, and those walls prevent us from expanding. It's like being in a home with a ceiling that is yay high, and not realizing that beyond that ceiling, there is this entire universe that exists.
It's the frog.
Only being able.
It's the frog in the well. It's the frog in the well analogy, right? The frog in the well water knows nothing of the ocean outside of it.
Correct. And it's all you see and it's all you know. And so when you actually go deeper into these stories, right? And again, we relate this back to loneliness. When you're lonely, you're in that contracting energetic field, right? And so to move through loneliness, we are required to expand. We have to open so that we can be receptive towards others and be received towards others so that we can create that connection. And these stories, I do think, hold us back from being able to be more expansive. I see it all the time, not just, things I've seen within myself, but things that I see in my clients on a regular basis. And once we can identify and move past these walls, and to do so, we have to look at, well, what are the limiting beliefs? What is the mindset? What is your past experiences? What is the current language that's moving through your head, your beliefs, right? All these things play a role in whether or not you can actually take this wall down and expand past that wall, move that ceiling higher. And as you do that, you start to find individuals that welcome you, that encourage you, that support you, that love you, that allow you to be in this expansive energy where you're not only learning more about yourself and the world around you, but you're also capable of fully expressing yourself. And I think that's a big part of this aspect of loneliness, is when we're lonely, we don't end up fully expressing. And that full expression is, in my opinion, the equivalent to having that expansive energy, just like reaching out in all directions.
We all want that. We all want that, right? Leah, I'm going to throw another little limiting belief here with you between this loneliness and reaching out for help, right? This loneliness and reaching out for the divine mirror, because this is a limiting belief that I held for a very long time. So if I held it, most likely people listening have also held it, right? So the limiting belief is, as we start to awaken along our journey, we remember that within us, we have, as you just said, this unlimited reservoir of expression and potential waiting to be shared with the world. And the limiting belief here is that, okay, if I have that unlimited potential and I have, quote unquote, all the answers within, why do I need someone else? Why do I need another person if I have it all? And I have an answer to this, but I want to hear your answer first, Leah, before I sort of add on top. If I am a spiritual being that has all of the solutions, then what is the power of a divine mirror, another spiritual being outside of me?
I feel like there's so many answers to this that I have. So there's this quote that I always like to come back to, and it's, alone, we can do nothing. And that's not meaning that you actually can't do anything alone, because alone you can do some things and you can accomplish certain things. And it's only going to go so far. And part of the reason for that is because with other people, you are stronger. With other people, there is more possibilities. Through other people, greater connections are possible, which can lead you to new paths. Let's take a business connection, for example, right? Let's say you're doing I'll use my own experience, right? I just got into the world of podcasting. This is a new thing for me, loving it. And it's a new thing for me. And recently, I went to a podcast conference. And as I stepped into this podcast conference, I didn't know many people. Well, that's not true. I do know a good amount of people that are in the podcast world, but it was still like I was kind of on this journey myself. And when I stepped into this podcast conference, I met hundreds of people that are in this podcast world. And each one of them brought something different to the table that allowed me to drop in with them, to connect with them, to co-create with them in a way that's led to me having 10 podcasts with people that I met from the podcast conference already. That's led to me finding different platforms for me to host my podcast, for me to edit my podcast, for me to find other people to podcast with, right? And so had I not gone to that podcast conference and connect with others, none of those possibilities would exist for me right now. And so in the physical space, that is one answer. Another reason and answer I have for you around this is that we are energetic beings, and we are constantly having this action reaction experience within our bodies and within the world around us. This is where manifestation comes in. This is where really being able to attract these experiences that you want starts to begin with you, within you, right? And so when I say that we're energetic beings, what I mean by this is that when we come into contact with another person, and you can see another aspect and lens of the divine mirror here, when you come into contact with another person, this person actually stimulates different vibrational frequencies within your body. They are vibrating and resonating at a different frequency. And what I like to think of this, like if anyone's into human design, right? You have open gates and you have closed gates, and you have open centers and closed centers. And when you connect with someone else who has something totally different happening within their human design, you learn that, oh, well, if this person has an open space, their closed space can support my open space, and my open space can support their closed space. And you start to resonate and influence each other energetically. The same thing is happening when you come into connection with another being. And it becomes this divine mirror, because when your energy meets their energy, you start to resonate in a different frequency. And as you're there, you see things from a new lens. You start to come to new levels of awareness. You start to recognize and identify and new things really about yourself and about the world around you and about other people that you likely would not have come to because otherwise, and without this person, because you wouldn't have shifted the way that your body and energy is actually resonating without them.
Yeah. That's my answer, Leah. You delved into my heart and pulled it out. That's the answer here from my perspective. Everything you said, but particularly this last piece of, I get two images when you say what you just said. There's two little analogies that I'm going to try and blend together here. One is the puzzle, right? The gigantic puzzle piece that creates the oneness or the source or the God that we all derive from, right? Each puzzle piece is valuable in itself, but also each puzzle piece is a unique expression of the same core materials that we're all made from, right? So yes, we all have the fundamental source, but we also have unique life, if you want to even say past life experiences that, as you highlighted, energetically add to the current experience that we are moving through, right? But the other analogy that I think also adds to this to help people understand it is, I'll throw a quote out for people, the Rumi quote: "We are not a drop in the ocean, we are the entire ocean in a drop." So the analogy is the ocean. Each wave is made of the ocean itself and derived from the ocean, but each wave is unique, right? There's no one wave that's exactly like the one that came before it or after it. So, this is really what we're getting at here. And this is why, yes, you are a being that has all the answers, but the unique expression that you are works really well with other unique expressions. Leah, another obstacle here between using a divine mirror to overcome this loneliness. And this is, again, I keep using me as an example, because if I'm the example, other people get it as well. I've noticed that when I use someone, I'll use you, Leah, as I've used you in our beautiful accountability sessions. Sometimes the fear that comes up to stop me from sharing, speaking, being seen and held is I feel messy, right? So I'm shifting from the divine side into the human side. I don't want to reach out. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to move through my loneliness because I'm stuck. Again, it can be a story, but it's even more than that. I'm stuck in a feeling of inadequacy. I'm stuck in a feeling that if I'm held by Leah, if I'm seen in this divine mirror, then she will see me. She won't just see my divine parts, but she'll see the messy parts, the broken parts, the piece of me that maybe cries, the piece of me that maybe, is very sensitive and vulnerable. So I guess what would you say, Leah, to people listening that have this fear with overcoming their loneliness and reaching out to other people?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I want to say is that messiness is absolutely freaking beautiful. And I think that our society and the world around us leads us to not see it that way, and oftentimes drives us towards this aspect of perfection, right? It has to be perfect. It has to be delivered in this beautifully tied little pink ribboned box, right? And in reality is like, that's not reality. It's just not. And messiness is actually what leads you into learning. Messiness is what leads you into growing. You think about a child and think about how messy a child moves until they actually learn to find stability and get up on their 2 feet and walk across the room, right? And even when they start that walking, they're still falling. They're still getting messy. And we forget that messiness is actually the bridge into figuring it out, right? And thinking about like making a puzzle. You don't just like keep all the pieces in a box. You lay out all the pieces in a messy way on the table so that you can get a good bird's eye view at what it is that you need, what it is that feels good, what it is that is supportive for you. And so I encourage my clients and encourage you to embrace messy. Messy is how you learn. It's how you succeed. It's how you evolve. And looking at where in your path have you come into contact with someone that's made you feel that messy isn't okay? And really taking a deep look at that relationship and recognizing if that is a space that you actually feel fully open and safe and comfortable being your fullest self in your fullest expression. For me, like the only people that I want in my life are people that are coming in with all of themselves, because life isn't just this beautiful, perfect, wrapped experience. Like life comes with the light, it comes with the dark, it comes with the shadows, it comes with like really hard challenges, it comes with anger, it comes with frustration, it comes with sadness. And to have a space where you can be with all of those things actually creates an opportunity for you to heal, for you to expand, like we were talking about earlier. And if you don't have these spaces, it leads to you holding things in. And when you hold things in, oftentimes it leads to anxiety. It might lead to depression. It might lead to anger and these like big blow-ups or arguments or fights that you have with someone.
You put up walls. You put up nothing, you stop things from coming in, but unconsciously stop things from going out, right? In the effort to stop the messiness, stop the feeling, stop the sensitivity, stop the emotional flow, you also stop being able to receive, right? Stop being able to, like, as you're sharing this story, as you're sharing these examples, I just have flashbacks in my life of when I closed my heart due to relationship challenges, and then had further relationships after that. And I felt so numb, right? I felt so unable to connect to that person. And it's funny, I thought it was them at the time, but, reflecting back on it over time and even now in this moment, yes, they were a trigger, but it was the walls that I had put up to stop the messiness, right? To stop the feeling. And I guess another quote that comes up too is from Rumi once more, is the light, the wound is where the light enters you, right? And it's important to understand that not only are these spaces where we grow, they're beautiful opportunities and treasures in the proverbial cave that we can open to gain gifts, right? I had a dream last night, Leah. Funny, it's making sense now why I had it in relation to this conversation. I had a dream last night where all these shadows were coming into my home, and it was very nightmarish, and there was a lot of darkness going on, and I wasn't running. I wasn't running from the darkness. I wasn't like going away from it. There was a bit of fear there, but what I was actually doing in the moment is I was sitting next to someone and placing my hands on my heart and just holding myself in love as the shadows sort of moved in and around me. And I think that's a beautiful image of what we're sort of talking about.
Yeah, something that's coming up for me as well as we're talking about this now is like, if you can't be in a space, or if you don't have a space where you can be with your messy, ultimately you can't find your puzzle pieces. And some of those pieces are going to be darker, and some of those pieces are going to be lighter. And, like you're sharing, like it's being able to have all of the space to allow all of that energy to move and not get stuck and not get stagnant. And, a place where you don't have a ceiling above your head, that you are open to receive and to give.
Yeah.
You have also the coolest dreams.
I do. We have many conversations on that. Like I've done a couple of podcast episodes on dreams, and it's often because I just have every night I'm just, Anyway, one more question for you, Leah, before we finish here today, that I want to talk about in relation to loneliness, overcoming loneliness, and using a divine mirror. I want people to acknowledge and understand that when you reach out to someone, or maybe you are the person that's being reached out to, maybe you are acting as the mirror for that person that's seeking support. I want to speak about this quickly, this phenomena of you don't need to actively do something for the mirror to be activated. And what I mean by this is, we spoke about this at the start, your presence that you bring to this situation. If you set the intention, so if I say to Leah, hey, let's have a chat, and I'm going to hold space for you and you can talk, me as the space holder, the mirror in this example, I could decide to give advice, give feedback, give tools, insights. They're very valuable. Or I could be silent. And my presence is there either way. Have you noticed this, Leah?
Yeah. And that's part of being a welcoming space holder, right? Is you don't necessarily have to say anything for your presence to be known and recognized. And that comes, in my experience, as somebody that's tuned in and that is present, right? And that is listening, and that is emitting that energy of safety and love and support, even if they're not verbally sharing or saying anything. And also it's a good place as being in the seat of looking through the mirror is, how does that make you feel? Do you expect a response? Are you seeking validation through a particular response, or seeking that response so that you can feel a certain way? And if that is the case, looking at where are you choosing to possibly give away your power? Where are you putting a story? Where are you projecting a story onto? Because I know for me, like, my friends don't necessarily have to say anything. Sometimes it's just a matter of like sitting there and being present with me and just like holding space while I cry or holding space while I vent.
Yeah. I share this, like there's the story that you just described of giving and receiving without conditions, right? Most of us are giving with conditions or receiving with conditions. There's that side of it. And then there's also, because I know a lot of spiritual healers and light workers listen to my show, there's also this story of, I can't hold space, I can't listen, I can't support, I can't help unless I know how to do Reiki, or unless I have got my bachelor's in psychology, or unless I, go do that coaching certification. And I just, all those things are valuable. I'm never taking away from that. But your presence power is your birthright. Like, it's already you. It's not, you'll never gain that. You'll never gain that by intellectually learning something. It will always be a coming back to, right? And we open that through the heart in many ways.
It's true.
Leah, as we wrap up here today, one, I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you for your presence, right? I often, when I do these recordings with guests like you and friends like you, I feel that presence and more of me comes out. So I just want to acknowledge you and your beautiful mirror here today. I know that we have a beautiful membership that we're running out at the moment. We're rolling out and running out at the moment for people to tune into and tap into, where we'll be activating this mirror and supporting people to not just move through deeper layers of healing and transformation, but also practice this that we've been talking about here today. So is there anything you want to speak to around this that you're excited about?
I'm excited about all of it. I love holding space with you. I love bringing the love that we have in our hearts to spaces and witnessing how that affects others. And one of the things that I love about working with you is that you and I both navigate challenges together. And even through the hardest of challenges, you and I still have the ability to look at ourselves and like choose to take action through love and through a loving lens. And this membership is really for anybody that is seeking support, that is seeking guidance, that is seeking community, that is seeking healing and transformation. And it's a place for you to come meet others, look more deeply at yourself through that divine mirror, have an experience accountability, drop deeper into yourself, your body, your heart, what is within you, so that you can start to pull out all of these things that we're talking about and really expand into the world around you through that loving heart space. And so if you are seeking a place, a tribe, a community, come join us. Our membership is called the Heart-Led Healing Membership. And there is always space for you to be fully seen, to be fully witnessed, to be fully heard, and to be fully supported. And the first 10 members that join us get a super wonderful discount and get grandfathered in with that discount. And so, yeah, if anyone has any questions, reach out to me, reach out to you, like just drop into our inboxes and have a conversation with us. And I would love to chat more and see if it's a good fit for you.
Yeah. A few things here. So as always, for people tuning into the podcast or you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, I'll put it in the description of this episode. So you click the link. Leah made a beautiful landing page where you can tune in, tap in, find out more of the details and sign up if you feel called. We are running this for a certain amount of time. So depending on when you listen to this, take the step if you're feeling aligned, and which brings me to the last point. Everything we've been talking about here today, this is not a thinking thing. Yes, there are some logical things to consider, but I would encourage you to drop into your heart, right? And if you have been resonating with some of the things we've chatted about today, especially around loneliness and using a divine mirror, there's a piece of you that already knows what to do, right? There's a piece of you that is already saying, hey, this is something that I need in my world. So create the opportunity to listen to that. Leah, anything else before we wrap up here today? Any other final words of your heart or things you want to share with people tuning in that are important?
Yeah. The one thing that's coming up for me here is the power of aligned community. And there's so much power that exists when you tune in and tap in and connect with those that are aligned with you. Because when you do step into that space, the mirror that you do hold is so powerful. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my community, if it wasn't for my people that I call my family, and if it wasn't for the reflections and the understandings that I came to through those individuals. And so, yeah, it would be an absolute honor to show you what that experience is like. And I feel so, so grateful to have that, because I know that many people in the world don't get to experience the depth of what that is. And I truly feel that one of my missions in life is to show other people what that experience is like and what it gets to feel like and the impact that it gets to make. So I hope that you join us, Harrison. I just love you. And I'm so excited to guide others deeper into themselves through this container.
I'll share this to finish here, Leah. As you were saying that, we've spoken about this privately, but I want to share this with everyone sort of witnessing, that vision that you have, that mission that you have. It's so much bigger than even this container that we're talking about, right? There's so many bigger things to come that I think will be manifested, not just through our collaboration, but just through you following that mission. And I just was getting a lot of visions as you were saying that. So I'm just excited to be in your world, to see how that manifests. I'm grateful that I get to call you a beautiful friend, and I'm grateful that we had this conversation today. So I love you, and we'll talk soon.
I love you too. And thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Until next time here on the show, we send you love, we send you light, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Meagher, Meagher spelled Meagher. Sending you so much love.
Hey there, I'm DC. I host the Rock Podcast, Back to the Arena, The Interviews. It's about a 30-minute podcast where I talk one-on-one with a band who has released new music. You can find us on all the best podcast sites like Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and more. If you're a rock fan like me, subscribe today to Back to the Arena, the interview.
Electricast. Electricast.